Welcome to the Good Shepherd and the Child podcast, where we explore the spirituality of the Christian child through the method of the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd. I'm your host, Carrie Mecki-Lozano. Today we have Sue Stuhlsatz-Reese, who is the head of our board for CGSUSA, and Mary Mirrione, who is our national director for CGSUSA, on the podcast to talk about this really amazing opportunity that CGSUSA had at the National Eucharistic Congress that was from July 17th to July 21st this summer in Indianapolis, Indiana, and how we were able to set up atria and have children work in our space and talk to many people about the work and spirituality of the child. I hope you enjoy. Sue and Mary, welcome back to the Good Shepherd and the Child podcast.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie.
So we just got back from the National Eucharistic Congress, Indianapolis, last week. And I think we all could probably say that God showed up big time throughout the whole week, both throughout the Congress and Catechesis of the Good Shepherd's presence there. So I really want to just kind of dive into this amazing week that we all just got to share together and what we saw and got to experience and felt while we were all there. But I don't know if everybody that is listening to this conversation today will actually even know what the National Eucharistic Congress is. So maybe we should start there. What was this big, enormous, crazy event that we were just at?
So the National Eucharistic Congress is the largest gathering of Catholics I have ever experienced. They decided to have a Eucharistic procession starting from 4 different places in the United States and all meet up together in Indianapolis, where we could just get together and we could pray, we could have Mass together, and Catholics could just come together in the knowledge that Jesus is with us. And so it began to happen. And people came. I think I saw people from almost every state in the United States come through that place. Something like 55,000 people hanging out together and praying. It was a lot of people.
It was a lot of people. There were Catholics everywhere. Like you could see like this group of nuns moving here and this group of bishops moving here and this family of like 10 kids moving here. And it's just like people that pray in the rosary or praying over each other, people in line for confession. Like it was just, people were everywhere. Catholics were everywhere. It was such a big event. Hats off to the people who organized such an enormous event. Like you said, with the processions involved, like this was a huge production. Yeah. With so many people, and everybody just seemed so excited to be there together. Like it just felt like this huge joyful event, coming home and being with family and a whole lot of family, like a huge family, but I thought it was really beautiful.
And our youth moving in packs and just singing songs together.
Yeah, that was neat to see so many young people that were there too. Yeah.
It was so amazing. I mean, they talked about this revival, and it really, like every night we gathered in Lucas Oil's statement, and it was that. I mean, I think for all it was, and as much as it was, and as many people that was there, and I mean, we've talked about like the 20 minutes just for the procession into Mass. I mean, because there was so many. I really believe I came home really revived. I think that's a really good word, really revived in the center of our work in Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, right? Jesus in the Eucharist.
Right.
So it was beautiful.
They had this room downstairs because we were doing our work upstairs, but we didn't see too much of it. But downstairs they had this room for reconciliation, and there must have been at least 100 pairs of chairs around this huge room. And there was always a line. And there were these nuns like trying to get everybody to come get in line. But there was always a line to come and celebrate that sacrament of reconciliation with even 100+ pairs of chairs sitting in there already being occupied. It was amazing. was
Yeah, and the
amazing.
priests, I mean, they had shifts all through. Like, wasn't that open from like 7 to 11,
It was
7 in the
amazing.
morning till 11 at night? I mean, it was really a beautiful community effort and,
Yeah.
walking together.
Yeah. On Sunday after the event, I was in the airport in Indianapolis, which basically, I mean, I felt like the whole airport was Catholic at this point. Like there were so many Catholics in the airport. And the cardinal that celebrated Mass, the final Mass on Sunday, he was going through the gate to get on his plane to New York. And the whole airport, the whole terminal that I was in erupted in applause for him as he was getting on the airport. And it was just so amazing to see this congregation of Catholics in the airport, just so happy to be around each other. And it was really neat.
And he was, I mean, people could watch his homily if they like,
Yeah.
I'm sure on YouTube, but he sent us forth, right? And
Yeah.
for us, I think he talked about recognizing the gift of Jesus' presence among us, the gift of each other, the gift we offer each other through, with, and in Jesus, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was really a beautiful homily. And then I loved how he ended the homily, go, like we
Yeah.
come to Mass to be dismissed. So go.
Yeah.
He was very delightful.
And on the highways, it was like that too, driving home. Every car had some kind of Catholic sticker or said NEC or bus. I mean, there was just this Catholic presence everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, so then how did we get there? How did Catechesis of the Good Shepherd even get involved in the NEC?
Well, Carrie, it started over a year ago. I think our listeners may know that we do work with the USCCB and that there had been an inaugural launch of the Institute on the Catechism, which Bishop Cousins, who a year ago had been the chair of the Committee for Evangelization and Catechesis, he was present at this launch for this institute. And we had I think it was 3 or maybe 4 days of coming together and really talking about catechesis. And part of that was, of course, a conversation about the preparation of children for the sacraments. And so while I did speak to it in the group, there was more I wanted to say, and I had seen him during our break. We were heading back to the hotel where all of us were staying, and I ran after him and just really wanted to share with him some of the things that they need to know about who the children are. He was very gracious, and we ended up taking the bus back together, and he asked me at one point if they gave us a room at this congress they were preparing for, would we be able to do something with it, which of course I said yes. um, at that time, it was just one room. Well, after that, a couple of months after that, Joel Stefanik, who was, this whole event had a very small staff. We need to praise God for them. They worked so hard. But Joel had called me and invited me to serve on the family track committee for this event. So for I think it was maybe 8 months or maybe 9 months, probably 9 months. We met together every other week with a group, looking at how could we best serve the families who would be coming, because we had the Lucas Oil Stadium and also the Indianapolis, or I think it's the Indiana Convention Center, and so the family track was going to be on the second floor of that center. And so in discussing and discerning, what could we offer families, I was actually delighted that Catechesis of the Good Shepherd was not only seen but welcomed. In fact, it took us a number of months to figure out, well, so what are we? Are we a breakout session? I think we ended up being just a special experience. Thank you, Sue, because that's what it was, and they recognized that, so that was sweet. They also, for our work, they extended a very generous sponsor package for us, and we had, well, Ariel St. Cloud was a gift from God for us. She was our connection to the staff and to the work, and she was there for us every day. So of course, in working towards and through all of this, our board had to also discern, this is a huge thing.
Yes, because I remember when you first brought it to me and you thought that this would be something really sweet we could do for our children to give them a space and some art materials and the atrium materials and just ways for them to really meditate upon what they were hearing, they were seeing there. And I was very touched by that. And we took it to the board, and we're a small organization and we don't have a lot of capacity for these things. But what we do have is a connection to a number of catechists throughout the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And so we discerned that if we could get enough help and we could get the catechists in Indiana to be able to bring in materials and just a number of things that really had to happen for us to be able to make this work. And we sent out a request. Are you going to be there? Do you want to come work an atrium session? Are you local? Can you bring materials for the atrium? And one by one, these pieces just started falling into place. And we felt confident that this was something we could manage and that we could manage well.
I think it's amazing that it started with the idea of one room.
Yeah.
And turned into, what did we have? 8 rooms that we were managing?
Yes.
7 rooms that we were managing?
7
No, it
rooms.
was 8. It was 8 rooms because we had the toddler, level 1, level 2, level 3, and then the Neato/breastfeeding mother and baby room.
Yeah.
And then 3 sensory
You're
rooms.
right. It was 8 rooms.
It was 8 rooms.
It was 8 rooms. See? Wow. That was a lot. We set up 8 rooms in one day. One day. And, we have to praise God for Karen Webb and Sue Jett who brought all the materials. And for the sensory rooms in the Neato, I was sending them things from Amazon for months. And praise God for the generosity of their husbands as well, because I know we took over their garage for a very long time. And
yes, and the whole Heinrich family, they were all there helping us.
Family. Yes.
It's amazing that all of these people showed up. It's like there was a cry for help and everybody said, totally, I will be there. And I'm amazed that these catechists that brought their materials for literally thousands of children to touch. Right. And that's so trusting and beautiful in its own right, that they were willing to take their own personal materials from their atrium. They brought their whole atria for all of these children to get to work with.
Right. And it was multiple churches. I mean, we have so many to thank.
Yes.
And honestly, I mean, with all our catechists, it took my breath away that we had 70. Just like he sent out the 70, we had 70. And all of us, even though we didn't really know each other, we knew each other in the friendship of catechists. We all knew each other. I was so touched, deeply moved by how I could be in these rooms with Catechists of the Good Shepherd. And we all knew why we were there, and we were all delighting in serving God and the child. Mm-hmm. And the children showed such hunger for him. Didn't they?
I agree.
Yes. So he may not have been the first children, but one of the first children that came into the toddler room was a little boy, maybe 16 months old. He'd never been in an atrium before. And we started them around the perimeter, and when they got comfortable, we let them move into the heart of the atrium. And as soon as he moved into the heart of it, he found the Good Shepherd. And he went right to that, like he had known it his whole life. And the next thing he went to was the Holy Bible. Again, like he had known that his whole life. And observing this, I just said to him, I said, I think that you must be very close to God. And about that time, he leaned forward, and I could see the scar down his chest from his heart surgery. And I thought, yes, you are very close to God, and you have been. It turned out since he was about 2 weeks old, and probably even before that. But just feeling like you're in the presence of a very holy person, and they're 16 months old. And that's something that I don't think our culture lifts up enough.
Yeah. I love that he went straight to those two things that we have noticed that age child is very drawn to. It just really speaks to the universality of these themes that all children all over have shown us that they are very drawn to. He just really highlighted that. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story, Sue.
Yeah. And that toddler atrium was really, for me, it was a surprise because of all the rooms. I think I was most nervous about that one because we take such time and care in introducing the little tinies to the atrium experience, that I didn't know. I really, I didn't know how that would be for them. And it was really so good to see how they entered. Like you're saying, Sue, they came into this room and they saw chairs their side, they saw furniture their side, they saw things that were for them. I mean, the room was obviously for them, and they entered into it with joy.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly, I think this happened in every room, but particularly in this room, we had set up the rooms so that because there's a big conference rooms, so we set up like part of the room to be an atrium, and part of the room to be a place where families could make prayer cards to take home. Part of the room the children could do artwork and hopefully give it over to the Heart of the Child art exhibit, our traveling exhibit. And then we had a table that had resources for parents. We had a couple of QR codes for them to get more, and we had TVs that had, well, you did them, Carrie, thank you so much, a looping video on what Catechesis of the Good Shepherd is, and then particularly something for the age of the room they were in. And we had all the chairs like set up around that so they could come in and learn more about this particular age group and our work. And every night we had to go in and turn all the chairs back to the tables because all the parents kept turning their chairs around so they could sit and watch their children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was so beautiful. There were these two little boys that came in, and this is in the toddler room, and I saw this happen a lot over the week, where they would come in and they would go to the processional cross, and I kept thinking that's the 20-minute processions that we're having at the start of
Uh-huh.
Mass. But these two came in. I'm not sure they were, close in age. I'm not sure exactly how old, but he picks up the processional cross and then he picks up the Bible and he hands it to his brother and he says, "You follow me." And they did. They had a procession around the room and there was singing and
Oh.
it was just, really remarkable. There's so little, and yet we saw in that room their desire to be with God, and they really needed, a place for them. I mean, these rooms were not as quiet as we would like our atriums, and that our atriums usually are. I mean, and we tried. We had catechists at every door trying to help people understand to enter in silence. But even with all of that, what I saw was the children's desire to be with God. There were intense moments of prayer. There were so many people and so much happening, and this is why we went most of all, so that they would have time and space
Yeah.
to encounter him at their
Yeah.
own pace and rhythm. And they did that, whether they were atrium children or not, whether they had been in the atrium before or not. They all did that. It was amazing to me.
Yeah.
And everywhere I looked, I saw joy.
Yeah.
I saw joy in the faces of children doing art or making prayer cards or working with materials.
Yeah.
I just saw joy everywhere. It was so good for us to be there for these children.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, isn't this what we do? We create intentional environments for children to have a spiritual encounter with God. That's what we do, literally. And
Yeah.
so these kids are in this place with 50,000 other Catholics who are mostly taller and bigger than them,
Yep.
overwhelmed by all of this going on. And so we created a space when they walked in. Yeah, they saw the tables and chairs and materials that are their size, their level for them. Like, it was probably the first place that they entered within the whole Congress that said, "I see you.
Yeah.
This is for you."
Yeah. Yeah. Truly. And we did have quite a number of children who it was obvious they were from an atrium. There was
Yeah.
one, I won't say his name, but I just happened to be standing near the shelf he was taking a material off, and the way he took it off and sat down and started working, I got all excited because I realized, oh, you've been in the atrium before. And and then I said that to him, and I should have never said it to him, because when I said that, you've been in the atrium before, he looked at me, and he didn't say this, but I said it to myself. I realized, yeah, and if I had been in the atrium before, I would know better than interrupt his work because he was going to work and I was talking to him,
I
so
love that even our national director still has to learn that
yes,
lesson over and
yes.
over again.
Let your words be counted. As soon as he looked at me, I apologized to him. I am so sorry. I do not mean to interrupt your work. I am walking away now. But it was beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, it really delighted my heart. And I stayed away from him for the rest of the afternoon, just so that he could know he could work. But Carrie, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Neato? Because I think that I heard so many came to me and thanked me, and you were really the one. I think you spent your whole Congress in that room,
Yeah,
Carrie.
I
You and
did. I was
Isabella.
totally spoiled. While y'all were in the other 4 atria with mass amounts of people, I was in this mother baby Neato room just loving on moms, and it was all quiet and low lights and calm, and I had a great week. We had 13 chairs, like little rocking chairs with ottomans set up for the moms. I mean, as a mother of 7 who has taken babies everywhere with me, I was so excited to create an environment for these moms that said, I see you, you are loved, like, come, be comfortable, like, relax for a minute, have a comfortable place. Like, I've nursed babies on floors and bathrooms, on random chairs, all over the place, right? So it was so nice to create a space for them to be comfortable, And so these moms would come in, and I swear some of them were almost moved to tears because they would come in and see. Yeah. Like, and one mom was sitting down in the catechist that was helping me and said, would you like some water or a snack? And I swear she started crying because she just felt so loved in that moment. And it was such a joy to be a part of this environment that really loved on these young families, or these families that had young children. Yeah. And so moms and dads would come in with their pre-walkers up to 16-month-ish babies that just needed to wiggle, right? And so we had these rugs on the floor with some small Neato materials, and shout out to Be a Heart Ministry because she gave us so many different items for us to put in this Neato Atrium, and these children just loved all the puzzles and the dolls and the blankets, and it was just, praise her for helping us out with that. But so these kids would come in and just crawl all over the floor together, play with something, and the moms would all be so relieved that they had this comfortable place to come with these little guys so they can get their wiggles out, or they can sit comfortably and nurse, or the moms would just hold their little ones while they took a nap for an hour or two and just let them relax and sleep for a little bit. Like, I can only imagine how much less stressful coming to such a large event was for these families, just because they knew they had this one place that they could come and get their needs met. And just kind of, because we had the lights all low and it was quiet and everybody talked quietly, that it was calming in the midst of, like, I don't want to say chaos, but chaos.
Well, it was really inspiring.
Yeah.
It makes me want to go back to my church and create a little space. And there were moms that said to me, I knew that I could come because you had a place for me.
Oh, I love that. I hope we raise the standard for Catholic conventions and such, that they can provide such an intentional space, because, if we want parents to come to these things, then we have to, provide environments for them that makes it easier for them to come and not leave burnt out. And I think these moms did not leave burnt out because of this room.
And we have to also just really thank the Lilly Endowment, because
Yeah.
what we did in that room and also in the toddler room came from the grant that we received, and
Yeah.
the materials that were in those rooms as part of our grant, they went out into our community. So the toddler space went to one community that is going to be a
Yeah.
hub, an example, and the Lilly Endowment made it possible for us to do that in every region. And
Yeah.
then the Neato materials, actually, that went, I think, Carrie, that went to 4 different communities, right?
Multiple different Good Shepherd
Well,
churches that
right,
have toddler
right,
atria were able to absorb some of the materials that we bought and the
right,
chairs
which
and such. Yeah.
and then I think some also went to the Pregnancy Crisis Center, which I was
Yeah.
very happy about. But I was
Yeah.
also delighted that the people from Lilly came. Because
Yeah.
they're in Indianapolis, and I was so pleased, so grateful that they gave us this grant to be able to do
Yeah.
this work, but that they came and saw and really delighted with us in the shared ministry of it. So,
Yeah.
all of
Yes.
that was really a blessing. And, a lot of the theme of the week was, remain in me and go bear fruit that will remain. And we lived that out that whole week. It was really, really beautiful.
It was. It really was. I feel like God called us to this, and we kind of, took on this really huge thing, not knowing exactly what God's full vision was for it. And I don't think we
Mhm.
ever will. I think so many seeds were planted that there's no way we will ever know the full scope of what happened because of the Good Shepherd's presence at this Congress. But I think that God showed up big, and I think we all saw a lot of really beautiful things and ripple effects that started to happen that it'll be interesting to see what happens from
Yeah.
here.
I mean, it was, there was potential for disaster,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there
I don't
was.
understand, Mary. 50,000 people and atria
How
with
many
like
children
children
can
being
you fit in an atrium? Yeah, I mean, there was real potential there, and I delighted in God. The Sunday before we left, the first reading was actually one of my favorite prophets. It was Amos saying, "I'm just a dresser of sycamore." And I kept thinking that as we come, we were coming to really be who we are, advocates for the religious life of children. And there was a part of me that was just prepared to just do that because that's what we do. And often we're not heard or understood. And here we were so welcomed. I
Yeah.
thought we were going to be in a little corner, and we were up the main escalators,
Yeah.
right?
It was
How
neat.
many bishops came over and saw the work? I mean, had great questions and took time to really look and see the children. I mean, that was something that I wasn't sure was going to happen, and I'm so happy it did.
Yeah.
Well, and how many opportunities do bishops have to really go and see something like this with their busy schedules and all the
Mm-hmm.
things that
Yeah,
they
that's
are
true.
expected to do? So it was a gift to us to have them, and I hope it was a gift to them to be able to come.
Yeah, I agree. Even the day, let's see, when was it? It was the day before the Congress began when we went to Mass in the church across the street. And the psalm was Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. I
Mhm.
just feel like in those moments, God's saying, I see you. I got you. I'm holding you right here.
Yeah.
And then the next morning with the Mass right before the Congress began, they had a young man, a young boy. I think he's Elijah Stefanik. I think he's like 10, maybe 12, somewhere around there. Joel's son, he was the one that was reading that first reading that we saw. So they had a child reading
Oh,
for
yeah.
everybody. Like there
And
was
he was
thousands of people in there.
great. Yeah,
Oh,
he
he
did
did
well.
great. He had this little Eucharist tie. It was gorgeous. He did a great job. But I just felt like they were nods to like, okay, we're doing something right. We're in the right place. We're supposed to be here. So God definitely showed up.
And I think in the coming together, there was such a richness there. I got to see people I haven't seen in many
Yeah.
years. Particularly, there was a Franciscan friar who I was
Hmm.
in Honduras with him 17 years ago. He serves in Nicaragua now, and I've
Yeah.
prayed for him all this time, worried about him all this time, and it was so good to see him. I mean,
Yeah.
to see him.
Yeah, you were pretty excited when you saw him.
Yeah,
I think you
because
held
I
up the
didn't.
communion communion line. You were so excited.
Yeah, well, because yeah. It was wonderful.
It was wonderful. And I think we should encourage our listeners to just pray for this, all the seeds that were planted, pray in thanksgiving for all the people who helped make this happen, especially the catechists that brought their atria. But if we could just encourage everybody to pray for everybody who participated in
Yeah.
the atria and the works while they were there, just whatever seeds God planted in their hearts, for that to just be watered and grown within them.
Yes, Carrie.
Well, thank you both. I really appreciate being able to hang out with you both all of last week. I miss you already, but also
Yes.
joining me on the podcast today. I thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yes.
I miss both of you too. And, coming home is always a different experience.
Well, and I think it says something about what were there? Were there 8 of us? 9 of us?
Something
8
like that.
women and a baby in a loft.
And a baby in a loft, 2 bathrooms, and we had a great time with each other, right? It was easy, and that's also remarkable,
Yes, very.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Isabella's having Mary withdrawals at this point.
Oh, I'm definitely having Isabella withdrawals because she is just amazing. The way that little girl could pray with her little arms up and her mouth wide open, singing her alleluias, even though she doesn't have many words. Right? She praised God with us, or I should say we praised God with her. I think she was
Yeah.
the leader of that praise. She was literally out of the mouth of babes, you have perfected praise. That's what we saw with her. So thank you,
I
Carrie,
agree.
for coming and bringing her. And there's so many little ones that were there.
Yes, I agree. They were definitely such a beautiful presence at the whole convention. But you'll see her again when we're all there at the 40th next month. So hopefully more
Yay!
people will see everybody there.
Sounds great to me.
Thank you all for listening to this week's episode of the Good Shepherd and the Child podcast. I have a link in our show notes if you would like to watch a video of some pictures of the atria we had at the National Eucharistic Congress, as well as children working and children's artwork that they did while they were in our atria there. Also, we have our 40th anniversary celebration for CGSUSA coming up in Phoenix, Arizona from August 22nd to August 25th this year, 2024. We have extended the deadline for you to register for both live stream and in person. So the deadline is August 8th. So that's just a week away. So check out the show notes for a link to get more information about that. We would love, love, love for you to celebrate with us. Also, if you're not able to come in person and you are wanting to do it live stream, you can participate in it live on those dates of the event, but you also have access to all the recorded content for up to 3 months. 90 days after the event. So if you aren't able to participate that specific weekend because you already have something going on, you can still register to do the live streamed option of the celebration and watch the different recorded talks at your convenience, or gather some friends and neighbors together and watch the talks together, either that same weekend or at a different time. We really hope that you can all come and celebrate this monumental occasion for CGSUSA with us all. Don't forget that if you have a listener question that you would like to submit about Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, we have a link in our show notes for you to be able to ask any question about our work. This podcast is sponsored by the United States Association of the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd. If you would like to know more about Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, or if you would like to become a member, please go to cgsusa.org. Thank you all for listening. We will see you in 2 weeks. Go and fall more deeply in love with God.